watching The Connie Bryan Show. We've got a great program for you tonight. Coming up a little later in the episode, you don't want to miss Sasha Abramsky of the Sacramento Bee. He's a columnist with the Bee. He's going to be right here in my studio, and we're going to be talking about what has become of the Republican Party, so you don't want to miss that coming up a little bit later in the show. But right now, we always like to begin by welcoming all of our viewers in our respective markets, our growing network across the nation. So first of all, we always like to welcome our Sacramento viewers, where we emanate from. Thanks so much to all of you for watching. Also, Davis, we want to welcome our Davis viewers to the program. And then a little further out toward the Bay, we want to welcome our Berkeley viewers. Thanks so much for watching. And most recently, our newest acquisition, we want to welcome our San Francisco cable access viewers. Thanks so much to all of you for tuning in. And then down in Southern California, we want to welcome, of course, our Santa Barbara viewers, where the program started back in 2003. So hello, and thank you so much for continuing to be watching the show, even though I moved out here to the capital. And also we want to welcome our Pasadena viewers. Thanks so much to all of you for tuning into the program as always. And Long Beach. We want to welcome all of our Long Beach viewers tonight. And outside of California, we also have Portland, Oregon tuning in, so thanks so much to all of you in Portland for watching. And Denver Open Media in Denver, Colorado, thanks so much for tuning into the show. Also, Minneapolis, Minnesota, thanks so much to all of our Minneapolis viewers for tuning in. Also, we reach Washington, D.C., so we're hoping that some of Trump's minions might actually be catching what we're saying on the program. So thanks so much to all of our D.C. TV viewers for watching. And last but not least, we want to welcome our Salem, Massachusetts viewers. So thanks so much to all of you in Salem for tuning into the show. All right, we got a lot to get to, so let's get started. This is the part of the program we call Fun with the Newspaper, and where I like to kind of catch you up on some stories I've been keeping track of in the newspaper. So take a look at this first story I thought you'd be interested in. And this is out of Los Angeles by Brian Melly of the Associated Press, entitled "State Rejects Plea to Pump Brakes on Pot Deliveries." It says California moved a step closer to allowing marijuana delivery as pot regulators rebuffed cities and police chiefs who were opposed to the rule. It says California police chiefs and the League of Cities launched an online petition opposed to the proposal that showed wide-eyed children gesturing toward a pot delivery van outside a school. And I agree, that's bad. That's really bad. We should be signing that petition because that's a serious and valid concern. But there are other serious community concerns about allowing pot delivery as well that this story neglected to mention, so I'm going to talk about it here on the program. You can bet your last dollar that Domino's Pizza is going to be the big player if this is approved. They're going to be adding marijuana to their pizza delivery service. I guarantee it. And if that happens, I'm telling you right now, we all know what's going to be the result. We will never, ever have a hot pizza delivered in 30 minutes ever again, because their stoner delivery drivers will always get lost. And, they will arrive way late, if they arrive at all, if they ever find you. There will always be slices missing from your pizza, so this is just bullshit. So if you are a pizza lover like me, you need to join the police chiefs and sign the online petition. All right, take a look at this story here out of Bloomberg News, entitled "Sears Working on Deal to Stay Open in Bankruptcy." Yeah, Sears. You remember Sears and Roebuck, right? That's where your grandpa probably bought his lawnmower. They sell craftsman tools. You remember Sears? Okay, it's at the back end ghost town section of your local mall. Does that ring a bell? The story says that negotiations over the fate of Sears Holdings Corporation have moved away from a possible liquidation toward a plan that would keep some Sears stores open through Christmas. And then it says that negotiators are discussing a possible loan to Sears of between $300 to $500 million. I mean, you got to be kidding me. At this point, what CEO of what lending institution in their right mind would still have their job if they were dumb enough to even suggest approving $1 million loan, let alone a $300 to $500 million loan? And the story goes on quoting an insider speaking only on condition of anonymity, who said that the intention of this is to maintain the 125-year-old chain as a, quote, going concern for Americans with 90,000 jobs at stake. So of course our hearts go out to the 90,000 Sears employees whose jobs are at stake. But to be any kind of, quote, going concern, there has to be more people who have a concern about Sears beyond just those 90,000 employees who are hoping to keep their jobs. In order to be a going concern, there has to be more people than just the employees who are aware that Sears still exists at the boring, haunted end of their local mall. Alright, take a look at this story by Darlene Superville. Really cool last name, this reporter who wrote this story. Darlene Superville of the Associated Press, entitled "Melania Trump Puts on Happier Face During Africa Tour." The story shows our Russian First Lady, and I just want to remind our audience, I want to remind everybody, we have a Russian First Lady with a president who sings Putin's praises and who was helped to get elected by Russian KGB interference. Okay, anyway, the story shows our Russian First Lady in front of the Egyptian Sphinx with her colonial-era style hat on, complaining to the press that she hopes people will start paying less attention to what fashion she's wearing, like her "I don't care, do you" jacket. Remember that when she visited the caged facilities of the little children who had been separated from their immigrant parents? And she wore that jacket that said "I don't care, do you" to go down there and see them? So she's concerned, she's complaining in this story, wanting people to pay less attention to what fashion she's wearing. Oh yeah, Melania, we aren't supposed to pay attention to your fashion statements, huh? Well, what about your lack of fashion statements? Are we not supposed to notice them like this one here, this slutty nude porn shoot of you? America, this is what we've devolved into. This is your Russian First Lady. How proud her mother must be. And I know President Vladimir Putin is proud of her for sure, much more proud than her mom, because I can guarantee you he had something to do with Melania getting hooked up with Trump in the first place. Yes, I am suggesting that bombshell Russian nude model Melania did not marry Donald Trump because she fell in love with him. If you believe that, I've got a great deal on the San Francisco Bay Bridge I'd like to sell to you. Read between the lines, folks. It's not hard to figure this stuff out at this point. Melania is quoted in this story saying that she has at times told the president to put his phone down, and she doesn't always agree with him on everything. Wow, really, Melania? We're supposed to be impressed about you not agreeing with the corrupt, lying, dumpster fire in chief on everything that he says? This is a guy who was bragging about grabbing women by the pussy, paying off porn stars he had affairs with, making sexual comments directed toward his daughter, all while married to you, Melania. Maybe if you asked him to put his phone down to sign divorce papers, we'd be a little bit impressed. Until then, Melania, Americans clearly see you exactly for what you are. And last but not least, take a look at this story here out of Istanbul, Turkey, by Tamer El-Gabashi of the Washington Post, entitled "Saudi Arabia Admits That Journalist Died in Consulate." It says the Saudi government acknowledged early Saturday that Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi was killed while visiting the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, saying he died during a, quote, fist fight. Silence! I speak now on behalf of Saudi royal family and Prince Mohammed bin Salman. We would like to make official statement to the world, give story now of what happened to Washington Post reporter Jamal Khashoggi at our consulate in Turkey. But first, let us all take reverent moment of silence. Okay, that's enough. After our thorough and exhaustive 20-minute royal family investigation, for which we'd like to, of course, Thank you, President Donald Trump, for buying us time. We can now confirm Jamal Khashoggi, Washington Post reporter, did in fact die, but only as a result of an unfortunate fist fight over a disagreement.
Excuse me, Hallie Jackson, NBC News. Was this fist fight before or after you used a bone saw to cut off all his fingers? Because you can't make a fist to have a fist fight without fingers.
Look, I was not aware we would be allowing questions from the fake news.
Well, you can't call us fake news. The Turkish government has an audio recording of the murder from Khashoggi's Apple Watch that recorded the whole thing.
Well, how do you know it was Khashoggi in recording? Could be recording made of someone else by Turks after the fact.
Because it was confirmed being sent from Khashoggi's Apple Watch to his cell phone, which was in the possession of his wife outside the consulate.
So, it is just recording. You have no video. So how can you know we were cutting off his fingers?
Because it has Khashoggi's voice saying, "I'm Jamal Khashoggi, Washington Post reporter," and he screams, "Oh my God," and says, "What are you doing with that effing bone saw? Stop, you're cutting off my fingers."
How you say, very annoying, inquisitive reporter. I can see you have many questions. May we invite you to our Saudi consulate after the news conference for a private one-on-one interview where we promise to answer all your good questions over dinner.
Yeah, no thanks. Not that inquisitive. Look, it was 15 against 1. Can you explain why you'd need to bring a hit squad with a bone saw?
Okay, shut the f*** up now, Jesus. Okay, so we wait now. Now we wait to make to tell story until we hear all of this so-called recording that Turkey supposedly has. And only after we have listened to all of recording, we come back and give full official royal family story then. Right now, it's just fist fight over argument about Kanye West. And as for bone saw, let me clear that up. Everyone knows you bring bone saw like toothbrush when you make trip to Turkey, because goat meat is that very tough there. No more questions.
Connie Bryan, and you're watching The Connie Bryan Show, and I'm excited to have a very special guest right here with me in the studio tonight, Sasha Abramsky, who is, thank you so much for coming on, who is a columnist for the Sacramento Bee and also a freelance journalist, and I caught your recent column in the Bee that I really liked. So we're here to talk a little bit about that column, which we'll talk about in a second. First of all, I want to tell everybody a little bit about you, because you hail all the way from London, England.
Yeah, I grew up in London. I've been in the States 25 years, lived in New York for 10 years, lived in California 15 years.
Fantastic. And so you went to Oxford University, Columbia for grad school. What did you major in?
Did politics, philosophy, economics as an undergraduate, came to Columbia, did journalism, and somehow I've managed to combine the two interests for the last quarter.
And what, so how is it that you ended up making Sacramento your home?
You mean London, New York, Sacramento,
yes.
Not the trajectory? I teach at UC Davis, and my wife teaches at UC Davis, and Sacramento is...
So what do you teach?
I teach writing.
Fantastic.
I teach writing and journalism. So Sacramento is, the nearest big city to Davis. So
okay, yeah. Well, and you're a fantastic writer. I really enjoy your columns, so the students are lucky to have you. And you also write not just for the Bee, but as I understand it, you actually write sometimes for the New York Times, the LA Times. Let me just read a few others. The Atlantic, the Rolling Stone, New Yorker Online. Is there any organization, any news source that you don't write for?
Look, I write for a lot of magazines. I write opinion pieces for a lot of papers over the years. The National Review or some of the right-wing newspapers probably wouldn't want me to be on their pages, but most general interest, most progressive publications.
Progressive publications.
Yeah.
So you write a lot about social justice.
Yeah, look, my stuff is social justice. I write on immigration, I write on criminal justice policy, poverty, mass incarceration. There are a whole bunch of things that are interconnected that I've been interested in throughout my journalism career. And the stuff I've been doing on Trump is really just the latest continuing of that. Like, what happens when you start dividing one against another? What happens when you blame people, you scapegoat people,
Right.
whether it's Muslims or Mexicans or inner city African Americans? What happens when you scapegoat an entire group of people for social woes, social ills? And what does that do to our culture? What does it do to our politics? So I've been writing on Trump since he was a candidate in late 2015, and you know, my brain boils with anger pretty much, because
Yes.
this is the purest experiment America's ever had in demagoguery, in just saying anything and doing anything for a vote.
How does he not get held accountable? And I know this is kind of what
You know,
the column you wrote
yeah,
about.
I
How
mean-
did the Republicans not, so many of them, not hold him accountable for?
I think at first he was treated as an improbability. So in the primary process, until way too late in the day, people underestimated him. They assumed he was just a buffoon. They assumed he was a sort of clown on the edge of the political scene.
Yeah.
And they didn't realize...
And that's true.
Well, it's sort of true and it's sort of not. You know, he is a buffoon. And he is a clown, but he's also
And they elected him
a deadly
anyway.
serious demagogue.
Yeah.
He's also somebody who has really perfected the art of scapegoating in a way that nobody in American politics since Joe McCarthy 60 years ago has managed to do. And so when Trump came onto the scene, you had the Republican Party that had sort of dog whistled for years and years. They had race baited,
Yeah.
but they'd done it with a degree of plausible deniability, and they pandered to extremists on
Yeah.
climate change. And
Coming off of being extremely angry at having to endure 8 years of an African-American
Well,
president.
there was that, but you
And-
can go back all the way to Richard Nixon. You can go back nearly half a century, and you have this idea that the route to power is through race baiting. And
Yeah.
Nixon called it appealing to the silent majority.
And white patriarchal.
Yeah, and you know, Reagan did it to a point when he went to Philadelphia, Mississippi, and made a states' rights speech. George Bush Sr. did it with the Willie Horton adverts. There's nothing new in Trump's playbook here. What is unique about Trump is the degree to which he takes things, the extreme to which he takes things.
Yeah.
The fact that he doesn't pull back at the last moment. The fact that he actually really doesn't care about plausible deniability. It's all in the open. So if you want to get, you know, what is Trump's essence, you look at what he says. And his essence is misogyny, his essence is he's a racist, his essence is he doesn't like Muslims, his essence is he doesn't like the lesbian, the gay, the bisexual, the trans community. There are all these communities he doesn't like. He's sort of almost like a sort of, you know, the worst version of Queens, New York in the 1960s.
And there's a significant
sort of
amount
Archie
of
Bunker version.
significant amount of people in the Republican Party that appeals so strongly to.
That's right.
And you wrote a column
Yeah,
about
I mean-
that, which I want to tell everybody the name of. But before I forget, we could pause for 1 second, and I'd like you to tell everybody about your most recent book.
Yeah, the most recent book.
You're an author. You're a published author.
Yeah, I've written 8 books, I think, over the last number of years. And the most recent one is called Jumping at Shadows.
Jumping at Shadows.
And
Okay.
what it's about is fear. What happens when a critical number of people start looking at the world through fear? You know, I'm afraid of the person I don't know walking down the street.
Right.
I'm afraid of a stranger interacting with my kids. I'm afraid of the next epidemic, the next terrorist.
And Trump, of course, uses
Trump
that
plays into
fear.
that. Trump very, very brilliantly in some ways, and I hate to use the word in association with Trump, but he's very good at accessing people's fears. And he has this realization, this sort of street smarts realization, that if you make people afraid, they will follow you down any dark, dirty path you
And
take
one of the
on.
best examples of this fear is how he tries to cast the immigrants, the
That's right.
migrants coming here as felons and rapists.
That's right. And you know,
The majority of them are
you
not.
look at these caravans coming north from Guatemala and from Honduras and from El Salvador, and these are the most desperate, downtrodden people on earth. They're people who don't have any money, they don't have any access to education, they don't have any access to healthcare, they don't have jobs, they don't have houses. Nobody walks thousands of miles through brutal conditions at risk of getting abused, of getting raped, of getting kidnapped, of being robbed, and then risking trying to cross a border where if you get caught, you're going to go to prison.
Right.
Nobody does that on a lark. people do that because they're desperate.
They're desperate.
They do it because they
They're
want to save their
refugees.
children's lives.
They're looking for a better life.
They may not formally qualify for refugee status, but in everything but name, they're refugees. In the same way as people fleeing a war in Afghanistan or in Syria or in the Congo, those people are refugees. But you look at what Trump's done, and he's gone after the caravans, he's gone after refugees, he's decided to ban entire groups of people from entering the country. We have the lowest number of refugees being admitted in modern American history. We're now putting asylum seekers in prison. We're taking the kids of asylum seekers and putting them in tents in the desert in Texas. It's absolutely morally disgraceful.
And Trump, in addition, tries to create fear toward the press and saying that, you and your colleagues are enemies of the people. He wrote this column. I should just tell everybody that the title of it was, "If You Believe in Family Values, Don't Support the Family Values Party." This was a recent column of yours in the Bee that I thought was fantastic and right on the money. And so what we've been talking about exemplifies a lot of what you wrote.
The Republicans for years and years have tried to sort of take the moral high ground. They are the family values party. And the implication is that anyone who doesn't agree with them, you're not members of the family values party. You don't believe in family values. And that was always nonsense. Yeah. But now it's particular nonsense, because now, under the mantle of the family values party, you have a president who multiple women accused of sexual abuse and assault, who routinely demeans women in his public comments. You have the nomination to the Supreme Court of a man who had some credible allegations of serious assault against him. You have a party that puts children in detention centers, that parades toddlers into immigration court, and then makes those toddlers, some of whom are still wearing diapers, answer questions before an immigration judge.
You got a president who sexualizes his daughter, and everybody saw it on two national interviews.
This is just extraordinary. He sexualizes his daughter. He calls for the complete elimination of the child health insurance program. He wants to make it almost impossible for immigrants, legal immigrants, to access food stamps, school lunches, and all the other parts of the nutritional safety net. And this is the party which is trying to deny kids access to healthcare, trying to deny families access to nutritional programs, putting children in prison. This is the party that dares.
They watched him brag on that Access Hollywood interview about bragging about assaulting women.
It segues.
Grabbing them by the pussy. Exactly. And this is the family value. This is what's happened to the Republican Party.
In some ways, it's just a surreal escapade. You look at it every day and you're like, this is another example of nonsense.
And I've got to say, what the fuck is the deal with Lindsey Graham? All right? It's supposed to be the best friend of Senator John McCain, and we all know what President Trump said about John McCain, that he wasn't a hero because he got caught in Vietnam.
This is one of the just lunacies of our moment, that we keep waiting for the so-called adults in the room to take Trump on. We keep expecting, against all evidence to the contrary, that the people in the Republican Party, who really should know better, will actually stand up to it. And then you have people like Lindsey Graham, who, made these noises during the primaries about being against Trump.
And while McCain was alive, I just want to make that point, while his friend was alive, he was supporting McCain to some extent.
To some extent, but McCain was absolutely vilified and humiliated and tormented and mocked by Trump. And, I didn't vote for McCain in 2008, but he was a
decent man.
He was a morally decent human being.
Patriot.
But you look at the way Trump treated him, and then you sort of look at Lindsey Graham flip-flopping, going from being a sort of never-Trumpite to being a Trump sycophant, and to saying the most outrageous things to provide cover for Trump when Trump tries to, for example, politicize the Justice Department.
And the point that I get angriest about with Lindsey is he's waited now till McCain passed away to make it so, to come out even more that way.
When the history books are written, you're going to have a whole bunch of fascinating psychological portraits that will be part of this moment. And one of those fascinating portraits is going to be Lindsey Graham. What happens when somebody gets so caught up in the party's cult of the personality that they no longer have the moral stamina to intervene? And this to me is extraordinary. I look at someone like Graham, who should know better. And I look at someone like Mitt Romney, who apparently at one point did know better. Wow. And all of these people, or even Susan Collins, all of these people are making peace.
We're going to hold them accountable.
With a man like Trump.
We are going to hold them accountable here at the midterms coming up.
If we don't do this, if all of the things that have happened in the last 2 years do not result in electoral payback, do not result in the voters saying this is so morally despicable that we cannot tolerate it, if we do not fight back in November, we are going to end up with such a corroded democracy that the institutions aren't going to survive. We're going to end up with a democracy.
The good news is we are the majority, and we're going to fight back and take back our country. Sasha, it's been wonderful having you here.
Thank you so
and
much.
Let's do it again. Sasha Abramsky, everybody, with the Sacramento Bee. Check out his column, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can't call us fake news. The Turkish government has an audio recording of the murder from Khashoggi's Apple Watch that recorded the whole thing.
Well, how do you know it was Khashoggi in recording? Could be recording made of someone else by Turks after the fact.
Because it was confirmed being sent from Khashoggi's Apple Watch to his cell phone, which was in the possession of his wife outside the consulate.
So, it is just recording. You have no video. So how can you know we were cutting off his fingers?
Because it has Khashoggi's voice saying, "I'm Jamal Khashoggi, Washington Post reporter," and he screams, "Oh my God," and says, "What are you doing with that effing bone saw? Stop, you're cutting off my fingers."
How you say, very annoying, inquisitive reporter. I can see you have many questions. May we invite you to our Saudi consulate after the news conference for a private one-on-one interview where we promise to answer all your good questions over dinner.
Yeah, no thanks, not that inquisitive. Look, it was 15 against 1. Can you explain why you'd need to bring a hit squad with a bone saw?
Okay, shut the f*** up now, Jesus. Okay, so we wait now. Now we wait to make to tell story until we hear all of this so-called recording that Turkey supposedly has. And only after we have listened to all of recording, we come back and give full official royal family story then. Right now, it's just fist fight over arguments about Kanye West. And as for Bonesaw, let me clear that up. Everyone knows you bring Bonesaw like toothbrush when you make trip to Turkey, because goat meat is that very tough there. No more questions.